On the hunt for comfortable, timeless Western boots? You already know the best place to shop for quality boots is at your local Tecova store. So stop by Tecovas Nashville at the Mall at Green Hills or on Broadway by Ryman Auditorium. That's right, you now have 2 locations to choose from. Grab a cold one as you shop and get fitted by a pro. Tecovas Nashville is at your service, and you can find your perfectly fitted dream boots with the help of their expert staff. Everyone will be asking where you got your sick new boots, but I won't be asking because I know they must be Tecovas. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Today on CityCast Nashville, I'm here with the owner of 440 Media, freelancer for ESPN Radio, and co-host of Pod Bless Nashville, Braden Gall, to talk football. We'll be asking the important questions like, are we getting a Super Bowl? And what does mayonnaise perfume taste like? We're giving you the scoop on the storylines to pay attention to this Titan season and how and where to watch some college football. And hey, stick around after the interview for our segment A Mile in Their Boots, presented by Tecovas, spotlighting the people who shape the culture and community of Nashville. Today we're talking to Martha Silva, co-executive director of Conexión Americas, about her work with their culinary incubator program, Mesa Comal. CityCast Nashville is presented by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tecovas. It's September 5th, I'm Grace Fuse, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Okay, Braden, thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure to be here.
I'm very excited to learn about football because as always with these episodes, my number one goal is to make sure I don't sound like a dummy when I go to a football game. We've already covered some soccer stuff in another episode, so this is, giving the other football its shot.
American football, yes.
My first question is just, are the Tennessee Titans deserving of a $2 billion new stadium, do you think, given our lack of Super Bowl prowess?
Man, that is a loaded question with a lot of answers. And as someone who, if I had been on the council and had the opportunity to vote, I probably would have held my nose and voted for it. A lot of that is because we as a city decided, literally as a city, we voted in the late 90s to bring the Titans here and pay for their stadium. We decided that we were a professional sports town. And with that has come extraordinary economic development. I've been here for almost 30 years. Some of the things I don't like. But some of the things have been great for the city as well. As with all change, there are positives and negatives. But we sort of decided this as a city, and therefore, long story short, we don't really have a choice other than to get the best deal possible for the Titans and their stadium, and then be smart and thoughtful about how we develop what is largely the most sought after and financially important piece of real estate in all of America, and that is the East Bank. We will have a Super Bowl when the stadium is finished. It'll be done.
I was going to ask, you feel confident in our ability to have a Super Bowl?
100%. The NFL doesn't put $700 million into this. The state doesn't put $500 million into this.
Yeah.
If we are not going to get one. We are a world-class hosting city.
True.
Which is what you have to have. And the stadium will be in this big, beautiful new part of town that's been developed. And so financially, the question is, who's that going to benefit? It's not ever really about the team. And your question is sort of are they deserving? It's not really ever about that. It's about sort of the city and the ripple effect of having a stadium like that, both good and bad. The good is you're going to get Super Bowls. You're going to get massive events that are going to drive economic growth and revenue. The bad of that is, are we being thoughtful with how it's being developed to make sure that it works for all of Nashville? And that still sort of remains to be seen.
If you just had to say yes or no, are you excited for the new stadium?
Ask me in 3 years when the dirt's gone.
Cool.
The question is, again, are we thinking about the right things as it gets developed? For me, that's transit, that's community space, that's green space, that's affordable housing, that's childcare, all of which has been sort of somewhat baked into the development of this project. It's a drop in the bucket. It needs to be more. But as long as it's developed with not just the big financial partners' best interests, as long as it's developed for Nashvillians as well, folks that are working at the stadium, folks that are working in the arenas and at these places and at these events, can we build some actual communities inside the East Bank? That's the key. Okay,
let's talk about the actual team. The thing I love about sports in general is following storylines on a team level and on an individual player level. If people are talking about this upcoming Titans season, what are some of the storylines we should be watching out for that we want to be able to talk about with people?
I mean, it starts with Will Levis, the quarterback, who is a second-year player. The former quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, gets hurt about halfway through the season. Will Levis, not supposed to be the starting quarterback, supposed to sit it out for a year and then take over, gets a chance to play. Last year, he started 9 games. His first game was absolutely brilliant against the Falcons. He had a spectacular fourth quarter against the Dolphins on Monday night, in which they made an extremely improbable comeback to win. And you see the flashes of the talent and the ability. He also played a bunch of other bad games. And that's to be expected from a rookie quarterback on a bad team that's going to fire its coach. And that's what happened. The question is now, with an offensive coach in Brian Callahan, first time ever, calling plays, an investment in the supporting cast. They drafted an offensive lineman in the first round. They spent a bunch of money on 2 wide receivers to come in and help him. The question is going to be, is he accurate and can he process? And those are the 2 big questions for every quarterback. So Will Levis is the big flashing neon lights sort of story with this team. And if he is great, the franchise's future looks very different than if he is not. And frankly, Levis is being very intentional about trying to develop his personality and face in the community.
Yeah.
He's being very intentional with, like, I'm going to be out there. I'm the face of the franchise. I'm going to do advertisements. I'm going to do sponsorships. I'm going to raise money for this charity.
Advertisements, like, are you going to say it?
No,
or
you
do
can
I
go
need to
ahead.
say
You can go ahead.
The mayonnaise perfume.
It's brilliant.
Will you be
brilliant.
purchasing the mayonnaise perfume?
According to his teammmates, they say it tastes. According to his teammates
out here licking it.
According to his teammates, sources indicate that it does smell okay. I have not smelled it. I cannot comment one way or the other. I have not worn cologne since like 1999.
This is the time to try it, though.
But again, even the commercial, like, Levis has like this sort of interesting personality that I think he sort of likes to like troll the internet a little bit. And so, like, the whole I put mayonnaise in my coffee thing is not actually real. It's just a thing he kind of leaned into.
Who knows?
Who can say? He doesn't actually eat bananas with the peel on. It's just sort of a thing that happened on the internet and he leaned into it.
Have you seen him eat bananas in a regular way, or you're just guessing?
No, this is the thing. Like, he said this before. Like, all that stuff is not really actually what he does.
Got it.
But it's fun on social media, and it's just kind of his shtick that he kind of leans into. And honestly, the commercial is, if you have not seen it, it's absolutely brilliant. It's hilarious. It makes fun of all of the worst commercials on television, which are perfume and cologne ads. And at the same time, he's raising money for charity. So, like, it's
win-win-win. Okay, let's talk about how people can really enjoy going to a game. First off, I just want to know, are there any, like, essential matchup games that should be top of my list if I'm going to go to one Titans game this season?
If you're a diehard Titans fan, I would pick the season finale against the Texans. Now, there's some risk involved in that because you don't know who's healthy. You don't know what the team situation is going to be, but it also could be the biggest game of the entire year. And if they're fighting for a playoff spot, which doesn't seem likely, but it's possible, the Texans are sort of one of the biggest rivals, and especially with all the Oilers cease and desist stuff with the colors and the uniforms and the logos and sort of the rivalry that's developed there. Also, the Texans are very good. They have a great young quarterback in C.J. Stroud. They are a fun team to watch. So normally Titans fans hate the Colts the most, but I think the Texans might be taking that. Certainly you got Joe Burrow coming to town in Week 15, which is Brian Callahan's former team. There's lots of drama in that game. Also could be a wild card game in theory. You got the Packers coming to town early in the season as well, which is always a very difficult ticket to get, but a lot of Packers fans will be there. The Colts are always a big one Week 6 as well. So Texans is the one I would circle. If you want to go to an earlier game and you don't want to go in bad weather, I think the Packers game is a good one to go to.
Yeah, I always forget that football season gets cold and that I should be like packing a sweatshirt or something for most of these games. Any tips on getting to Nissan and not pulling your hair out?
No,
cool.
I don't. I wish I had them. Scooter, and I can't believe I'm ever saying this in public. I can't believe I'm saying this. But like, honestly, Scooter might be the best way to do it.
Scooter.
Or be okay with walking, which if you're okay with walking a little bit, that's the way I have always gone to every event. Mm-hmm. I would keep your vehicle out of the fray.
Totally.
Because there's no parking, big piles of dirt and construction. And honestly, like, transit's not great yet. They should, in theory, with the vote coming in November, have their transit system working very well on big event nights. It would be a great place to showcase what perhaps a dedicated bus line might look like.
What do you got, Freddie? Come on.
Just show us what it looks like, man. But so it's hard to take transit to get there. Ubers are, ride shares are impossible.
Yeah.
Parking is impossible. So either walking, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I bet you a bicycle or a scooter is going to be the most efficient way to get the final mile.
Yeah, it's a hot take, but I appreciate it. Wait, so what's tailgating like right now?
I mean, it's been 2 preseason games, so we don't really have a feel for what it's going to look like in the regular season.
Fair enough.
I would assume that a lot of the bigger sort of higher end tailgates are going to get priority of space because, again, the parking lot has been cut by 60% around the stadium, 50% at least. I would say, also, can't believe this is coming out of my mouth. Possibly consider tailgating downtown instead.
Brayden.
Like, don't try to bring the car and the tent and the grill and do all that stuff. Just like let one of the restaurants or bars do it for you. Like, I don't. It's just not a good situation.
This is crazy. This is an alternate universe we followed into.
Yeah, I know. Hang out downtown on Broadway and take a scooter. That is literally the worst possible advice I've ever given to anybody.
Incredible advice. Okay.
I honestly can't believe I said that.
It's crazy. You're on the record. You're recorded. Are there any chants that I should know?
Oh, wow. I can't. I mean, I don't think so.
No.
They used to chant Derrick Henry when Henry was here. I mean, but to be honest with you, to be fair, there's not a lot of chants in the NFL in general. It's not a college kind of game where in college there's a lot of like history and tradition and pageantry wrapped up into things like chants or terms or fight songs or phrases.
That's totally fine. And I appreciate it because it's honestly a flawless transition. We're going to take a quick little break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about college football. And hopefully you can tell me about some of those chants if you know them. We're here with Brayden Gall. Let's take it down one notch and talk about Nashville's SEC teams and how are they looking for this year?
Man, so that is a far more complicated question than you realize because Tennessee is pretty good right now, which makes Tennessee probably the biggest brand in the market. If you look at TV ratings, this market has been a Tennessee Volunteers market for the better part of 60 or 70 years. And so I think when Tennessee Volunteers football is relevant, I would say UT is number one. However, from 2007 to 2023, there was a lot of script A's in town because Nick Saban was the coach at Alabama and he was winning a lot of championships. And so Alabama has a very large fan base in this market. The inner circle is probably the next group of teams that I would include, which is sort of the ones that are by geography closest to town. They have a lot of alumni from Georgia, from Kentucky, from Ole Miss, from Auburn. And then there's Vanderbilt that's actually located here, but has like a 6,500 student body population, all of whom are like curing cancer and fighting civil rights cases. And so therefore aren't like going to football games or, you know, they just don't have a huge fan base. They're also not particularly good. So, I
mean, I'm kind of sad to hear about Vanderbilt because I didn't know that they suck so much, but that's okay. They're busy. It's okay.
It's their fault and not their fault all at the same time. Because college football is as capitalistic as it gets in sports. Ironically, the NFL is actually the most socialist sport in the world, basically. It's revenue sharing, it's salary caps, it's player collectively bargained union agreements. But college football is different. College football is he who has the gold gets the players and wins the games. And so Vanderbilt has other priorities. And I think Vanderbilt people are okay with that, strangely enough. I think they just want to be competitive on Saturdays, and I think that's okay. I think that's a fair ask.
That's absolutely a fair ask. And I'll be honest, I went to a small liberal arts college where it was kind of weird of you to go to games because we were so bad. And kind of on that note, would it be weird of me to go to an SEC game for a school that I didn't go to?
No, I do think as a fan of just like all experiences in general, like one time, and as a parent who teaches our kids, like, no, you have to take a no thank you bite every time we try food. Like there's lots of places in the world that I would love to visit once. If you have never been to one of the big SEC games in a big SEC stadium, if you have a chance to go to a two teams that are ranked in the top 10 at a 100,000 seat stadium, it is something you will never forget. You may never want to go again. For me, that's my happy place. Like I could go to college football games in the SEC. The food is spectacular. The tailgating is baked into the culture of the stadium and the fan bases, and the tailgates are unique. Athens is different than Baton Rouge, which is different than Knoxville. If you have a chance to go to an Alabama game, to an Auburn game, to a Georgia game, Tennessee, LSU, Gainesville's not great. Don't hate on me, Florida fans, but Florida's a fun atmosphere too. But like, I would pick one of the true like idyllic small towns and go experience like Ole Miss football or Auburn football or LSU football. It is a very special thing in sports that is different than almost anything else. It's very European soccer, honestly. They're the two, English and European soccer, and the passion is very similar to SEC football in my mind.
Do you have any recommendations for bars around town that are good college football bars?
I will say almost every major sporting event that I have watched in a bar of late has happened at ML Rose. They have a great local beer selection. They are a locally owned company that puts a lot of effort into their food and their beer and their atmosphere that is sort of tied to the neighborhood. So my daughters like it. The wife likes it. I like it. It's a great place to watch sports. There's a couple spots in East. Beyond the Edge has always been good. A very good college bar with lots of TVs on Saturdays. And I live in a part of the town where there's not a lot of sports bars. There's just not, which is okay. Jasper's on West End is very good. I think they're a Clemson bar actually, but they have a game room where you can play like all kinds of, shuffleboard and
fun.
Air hockey and Papa Shot and skee ball all for free. And they've got a big screen and a bunch of TVs. My kids love it. So
cute. They have solid brunch options at ML Rose.
Good drink specials.
Good drink specials, good burgers. There's
two very important things.
Very important things. When you're not talking about sports on the radio, you're also a podcaster. Can you tell us about Pod Bless Nashville?
440 Media we are sort of a digital network that serves the Nashville sports fan. But I've also, when I launched the company, I really wanted to do things outside of sports. I'm very interested and passionate about moving out of that. And I'll be very honest, the Preds lose a hockey game, I don't get outraged anymore. I am far more outraged as a parent of two daughters living in a community that we have things we need to discuss and work through and figure out. And Nashville is the epicenter for so much. Some of the things that we are kind of grappling with as a society, whether it's race, whether it's reproductive rights, whether it's education. Nashville's like ground zero for a lot of that stuff for both sides to sort of battle it out. I wanted a show that would tell the news and talk about the news and talk about things that are going on, a little insidery with access and do some lowercase j journalism, but really I wanted to do a show that it didn't sound like we were reading a script. We there's personality involved. And so Pod Bless Nashville came out of sort of what that was. It will evolve and change into something, I'm sure. But right now it's myself and Jamie Holland, who is a land use and zoning attorney and a lobbyist in town who has been a part of, that sort of world for a long time. In my day-to-day job for 25 years, I have done nothing but talk about football games and hockey games and athletes and coaches. And then to sit down with, the chairman of the House Commerce Committee for an hour and talk about the legalization of marijuana and hypocrisy and everything else is just a fascinating set of muscles to exercise.
Believe me, I get it exactly.
Yeah. You're doing it right now.
I went from sports podcasting to this.
So Pod Bless Nashville for everybody out there it's news, politics, business, history. I think history is a big part of this city that not everybody understands, that it's a huge part of so much of what we're currently dealing with, talking about, covering. There's so much that is more deeply rooted in the city than I think people realize. And so we try to mix history in there as well. But yeah, we're not the end all be all. We're not the best at this or the most of that, but we have fun and we talk about what's going on in the city. And we hopefully do it from a perspective that forces people to think and make their own minds up about what they think is going on with a particular issue.
Absolutely love it. It's a fantastic show. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll be listening to everything that you do forever. And I'm sure we'll need you back to tell us how the season is actually going when we really get rolling here. But thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
And hey, don't go anywhere. In a second, our executive producer, Whitney Pasternak, is walking a mile in the boots of Martha Silva, the co-executive director of Conexión Americas, in a segment sponsored by Tecovas. Hey y'all, it's CityCast Nashville executive producer Whitney Pasterek, and I am here with my friend Martha Silva, who is the co-executive director of Conexión Americas. But more importantly, she is deeply involved in a program that we want to talk about today, which is called Mesa Comal. Martha, thank you so much for being here. What is Mesa Comal?
Mesa Comal is a culinary incubator. It's a 2,500 square footage commercial kitchen that we open to food entrepreneurs in Nashville and Middle Tennessee.
And it's located in the back of Casa Azafran.
Correct. So Conexión Americas is a Latino nonprofit that was established 22 years ago. And we are the lead organization that created Casa Azafran.
Tell me a few of the food trucks or chefs or people that folks might know who you work with at Mesa Comal.
We have seen around the city throughout all these 10 years that we have had Mesa Comal in operation, many entrepreneurs that have graduated to bigger kitchens, to bigger partnerships. So Hummus Chic, she started at Mesa Comal, and now she's successfully in multiple states in the United States, in Whole Foods, Kroger. And when we talk about food trucks, we have Inca Trailer, we have La Cocina de Juanita. Limo is one of the main Peruvian restaurants in East Nashville that opened recently. We have Pelican and Pig. We have Little Gourmet. Definitely the kitchen is more than a facility. We provide connections to businesses. We provide opportunities for them. We connect them with local spaces that potentially wouldn't be available for them if it's not because, of course, the advocacy and the connections and the work that Conexión Americas had been doing for 22 years. We also, beyond that, provide technical assistance when it's needed, because many of these entrepreneurs come with knowing that they cook well. But one thing is to cook for their family and friends, and another thing is to cook to 200, 300 people event. So obviously they need that assistance to grow and learn best practices around that business.
Well, so let's walk through a day in the life of Mesa Comal. We'll walk a mile in the boots of the chefs and entrepreneurs who go through there. What does a day in that kitchen look like?
The concept of the kitchen is a community kitchen. So really people, entrepreneurs are sharing the space. They need to schedule their equipment, their prep tables. So easily you can accommodate at the same time in Mesa Comal 10 different entrepreneurs that are elbow to elbow working together. That has a lot of the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? In the sense
Right.
that it's a hot kitchen, literally. But the beauty is that a lot of partnerships also take place there. Imagine a 24-hour operation, right? This is the only program of Conexión Americas that is 24 hours. The first vendor comes at 4 a.m. and the last vendor leaves easily at midnight. So yes, it's a very complex program.
What are some other ways that you feel like Mesa Comal is a part of the culture and community of Nashville as a whole, not just within the Spanish-speaking community or immigrant community, but everyone?
One of the main missions and dedications and purpose of our organization is to make sure that Nashville is a welcoming city, continues exploring to diversify to other cultures, Latino, Kurdish, Asian, Muslim, American, right? We are all in this city, and the best way to integrate, the best way to learn from other culture is through food. We can sit at the table, share a meal, even we don't speak the same language.
Most people know this by now, but CityCast Nashville is not just a news show. We're also about great recommendations. So, Martha, at the end of a long day at Mesa Comal, maybe you haven't stayed there all the way to midnight, but if you want to go have a great meal, what are some places that our listeners should check out?
I would love to mention Mesa Comal Cafe. So that's the opportunity that we opened in August 2022 in partnership with Belmont University and Sodexo. We are an incubation kitchen and store. I also would like to mention Limo. If you want to have a nice drink and great quality food, Limo is one of those. King Tut's on Knollsville Pike, right? Beautiful place, very organic, Middle Eastern food. He has a nice patio, and his food is just incredible. So absolutely, King Tut's, Limo, and Mesa Comal Cafe should be on the list for anybody in Nashville.
Martha, thank you so much for being here. This is also great to know. Y'all at home, go ahead and check out kitchen.conexionamericas.org to learn more. We'll have that in the show notes. And we'll, of course, put in some links to those restaurants that Martha mentioned as well. It's great to have you here, my friend. And thank you for all you do for this city.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Braden's hot take on how to get to Nissan, so please write to us at nashville@citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye!